I'm doing all demo today, no slides. I'm speaking about how to extend Caddy, which is a web server built on Brad Fitzpatrick's HTTP2 library, and it's working very well. And it's a good replacement for Nginx or Apache in many cases. It has different goals and advantages. So I'm going to show you today how you can write your own kind of add-on or plug-in for Caddy, so that maybe even on the download page you can have a little button here so that people can just choose it when they go to download, and then when they choose their platform, it'll do a custom build with that feature built in, and then bring the download after a few seconds. So for example, this Git feature allows you to deploy your site with Git push. So that's built right into your web server. So that's kind of cool. The instructions are here, but I'll show you. Let's say that we wanted to build a middleware or like an add-on for your web server to allow you to integrate with a monitoring service, let's say Defer Panic. You'll have a Caddy file which defines the usage of your site. And let's say that we wanted a Caddy file that we could say Defer Panic and then give it an API key, and we'll serve it on localhost. So all we have to do that is have to make a file here, and we just have to create a setup function with the signature. And all it's going to do is it's going to parse the Caddy file using this controller. There's some nice utilities here. And so we'll get the first token, which would be so the c.next will consume Defer Panic, and then the next arg will consume the argument, and there better be one. If there's not, that's a problem, because you can't use it without a API key. So we'll save that. Then we'll create a Defer Panic client. Client API key. And then when the server is starting, when the listener is actually starting up, we're going to add this function to be executed. And it's just one line, well, two technically. Just capture stats, return nil because there's no error. And then when we're done, we need to return a middleware handler. So Caddy will let you, you can do two things. You can start a background routine that is basically a program running in the background using like the startup function. Save that. And then a handler you can inject into the middleware chain so that as a request comes in, you can actually see that request. Sorry if that was small. So if we need to return a function that returns a handler. This is all documented on the wiki. It's really easy, actually, so you can just copy-paste the template there. I'm typing it out because it's easier to follow in a demo. This would be the next handler in the chain. This would be the Defer Panic client that the handler will use. Here's the handler type. I've already stubbed it out. It just has two fields. Now we implement a handler interface. This is not exactly net HTTP, but that's okay. There's documentation about this, these two return types. This is the only difference. There's a status code and an error used for error logging, and so that the handlers can kind of communicate between each other as far as who handled the request. So this line will send it to the next handler in the chain. We'll send the HTTP request onward to the file server or whatever is going to handle it, and it's going to get the code and an error. If the error is not nil, we should probably report that. This is capital. And then we'll just return this back on through the chain. This is just one link in the chain, so we don't want to ruin it. Okay, now I have this Caddy file with Defer Panic and my API key, so I can test this by running a little tool called Caddy Dev, which compiles Caddy, unknown handler field. Yes, there we go. I forgot to return the error, which is nil. Okay, so Caddy's now running localhost 2015, and you can actually see this file here being served by it. And I'm going to hit this a bunch of times. And then here's the dashboard. And it might take a minute. I think there's a little latency here with this particular service. The cool thing about Caddy is that you can extend it to integrate with any particular web service. It is not only a web server then, it becomes a platform for producing and consuming, that's the errors page, that's probably not what we want, but it becomes a platform for consuming and producing web services. Let me generate some errors while we're at it. So here's some forbidden errors we should be getting in a little bit. Caddy is the web server that powers the GopherCon website and the Gopher Academy blog. You can read more about it on that blog as well. I'd love to have some contributors. There we go. So just in about less than 5 minutes, you've integrated some basic monitoring into your web server. And you can see the errors that came in, 20 errors, and they were all permission denied. Here's a little stack trace offered by Defer Panic. And then with one more step, you can, oh, here's a template. There's a registry file on the build server that powers that download page I showed you. And if you add your, okay, I'm done. Any questions?